Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a graphic nature and in graphic detail and may not be suitable for children under 13. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. I think this is episode 23, isn't it?
Wow, we're plugging right along here.
Here we go.
Wow. So I am Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
Okay. So this week's episode takes place in Utah for the most part.
Okay.
And I think this is our first case in Utah.
Really? Wow.
I think so. Well, I mean, we're only at 23, and I have a lot
We've been doing a lot in Australia.
We have, and that's because of our again, shout out to Millennium Angel.
Shout out again, Millennium Angel. We love you.
And to be honest, Australia is right up there with the US with some fucked up cases. I have at least 6 more Australian cases on my list.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's bad. I just read a new one today, actually, and I was like, oh my God, how many? It's just as bad as the US.
Wow.
Really? And I thought we were the only fucked up place.
No,
certainly not. The whole world's fucked, my friend.
Well, all right. I know that, but you know what? Like here, stuff like that, it becomes second nature.
I see a lot of it. Yes.
I didn't think that other places were as bad as we were.
I would argue Great Britain is just as bad as well.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of per capita.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense.
On July 29th, 2008, a woman by the name of Susan Cox Powell began recording a video of herself where she walks around her home and she's documenting all her stuff. And at first, she's talking about it as if it's for insurance purposes. And she even says, if anything happens to me or my family or my children, I want to document all this stuff. Now, this video is available on YouTube, and it's about 12 minutes long. And I watched the entire thing because once you start digging into these things, the more you know, the better you can present it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a waste of time or was it worth it?
It's a long watch. And knowing the end, probably unnecessary, but it's still good to, again, it depends on how deep you want to go down this rabbit hole. As she's going
context.
Correct. And it's, well, we're going to talk about the video right here, right now. So as she's going through, she's pointing out all this expensive stuff that her husband Joshua has bought. She's pointing out the surround, and this is 2008. She's pointing out the surround sound stereo. She's down in the basement showing a ton of expensive power tools, a ton of expensive remote control cars, like $3,000 worth of remote control cars.
Damn.
They had 3,000 pounds of wheat.
What?
Girl,
wheat.
what?
Yeah, 3,000 pounds.
Is that expensive? Is that worth something? Am I missing something here?
I don't know.
It's giving doomsday prepper.
That's what I thought watching the video. It's like literally in some cases they're 25 or 50 pound bags. In other cases they're buckets, like gallons, 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, weirdo behavior. Interesting.
It's really weird. And then she goes and she removes a painting or a picture and says, and this is where Joshua punched a hole in the wall.
Red flag.
Yes. So as this is going, you're realizing that, and she keeps saying, and this is what Joshua bought, and this is what Joshua bought, and this is what Joshua bought. So now as this goes on, and you're going to hear it throughout the story, but her lawyer told her to make this video because in the year prior to this, Joshua had run up so much credit card debt that he had to file for bankruptcy.
Whoa.
And then he opened new credit cards under her name because she had good credit. And these are the things he's buying.
Okay, so it's like a divorce lawyer telling her to do this?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's smart because Yeah,
I don't know if it's actually a divorce lawyer, though, because they are, and we'll get into this, but they are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So,
here we go.
Right. So I don't know that divorce is a thing there. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, it's certainly not easy.
This is an interesting opening teaser here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where's the other shoe here?
Don't you worry. This is the whole point. I literally, and I love doing this, is I love going through a case and finding the best moment. Like, okay, here's the moment.
Well, this one's got a big build up to it. All the other ones are just like hit you right in the face. Okay, here we go. This one seems to be a much slower teaser here.
Well, 2 weeks ago with the Stinnett case with the pregnancy and the fetal abduction, I hit you hard and fast with that
You
one.
did. So are you
Mhm.
being merciful, or are you just
I am
like
no comment.
building up to it, and then you're just gonna hit us all at once here?
This is a different kind of case.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Susan also wrote a secret will that included statements like, I want it documented that there is extreme turmoil in our marriage, and if I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one.
Oh God, that's bad.
So this is the crazy case of Susan Cox Powell and her husband Joshua Powell and their two sons, Charlie and Braden.
I'm interested to see where this one goes. All right, let's dive in here.
All right, Susan Cox was born on October 16th, 1981. She is the third daughter of Charles and Judy Cox. She was born in New Mexico and lived in Alaska before her family settled in Washington State when she was a child. She was eventually becomes a devoted mother of two small boys. She is described as outgoing, optimistic, with a servant's heart and boundless energy. She has been characterized by her faith in the Heavenly Father, her determination to provide for her children, and her belief that families are forever. Her faith was an example to others. Obviously, she's a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the LDS for short, as is her whole family.
Makes
Excuse
sense.
me.
That's about the only way you get into it.
Yeah, basically. And from what I understand about the LDS Church is you can get married, obviously, but you can only get married in their like main temple if you are truly devout. So
Mhm.
that's something else there.
Yeah, don't they test you or like make sure that you have certain criteria or something like that?
I'm sure it's rigorous. So her husband, Joshua Powell, was born on January 20th, 1976, to Steven and Teresa Powell in Puyallup, Washington. Joshua's parents had a dysfunctional marriage caused in large part by the father, Stephen's violent abuse of his family and his disaffection with the LDS Church.
Well, that's a good start.
And you can always see where these things come.
Mhm.
According to divorce filings by Teresa in 1992, Stephen shared pornography with Joshua and his two brothers and refused to teach or enforce limits on certain behaviors.
What?
Yeah, just imagine being like this, hormonal 14-year-old boy, and not only is your father showing you porn, he's encouraging you to not really restrain yourself.
Oh, that's disturbing.
As a teenager, Joshua allegedly killed gerbils belonging to one of his sisters
Check mark number one.
and
Every
threatened his mother with a butcher's knife.
Yep. Writings on the wall already.
Yeah, he supposedly attempted suicide on at least one occasion.
Ooh.
By the late 90s, Joshua was living in Seattle as a student at the University of Washington. It is here that he began a relationship with a young woman named Catherine Everett, whom he had met at a local LDS church congregation. After the two moved into an apartment together, Joshua became possessive towards Everett. She later recalled that he refused to allow her to visit her family by herself and added, quote, he would have restrictions and limitations on what I could and couldn't do when it came to my family, unquote.
Oh, that's messed up. Also, odd that they were living together before marriage in the LDS church. That's surprising.
It is very surprising, but it's going to be a recurring theme with Joshua.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. When Everett visited a friend in Utah without Joshua, she decided not to return to Seattle and broke up with him over the phone.
Smart girl.
Now, Joshua had met Susan Cox, who was a classmate of his at the LDS Church Institute of Religion during a dinner party in November of 2000. Interestingly, these two had actually met before, like years before, when she was only 12 years old. And there was some kind of gathering and he was playing piano. So he stood out in her mind. And during later interviews, Joshua stated that he remembered meeting her and that he thought she was pretty, but his thought was, it's too bad. She's so young. Yeah, scumbag. Now, if we cut back to the year 2000, these two began a relationship. Susan at this point worked at a jeweler's, and Joshua went in and asked her for help to pick out a ring for his mother. So, they go through the whole process. They find this nice ring that they can both agree on. And he then convinces her to buy it for him using her employee discount.
Wow. Talk
Okay,
about being
mooch.
coercive. Wow.
And well, the ring wasn't for his mother.
Of course not.
It was going to be Susan's engagement ring.
Ooh.
Yeah, these two had only been dating for about 2 months at this point.
Okay, well, that's super unhealthy.
Yeah, it's unfortunately realistic and like for LDS, but I hate to see
That's
it still.
true. Yeah, they're encouraged to get married quickly so they don't break certain vows and promises about premarital things. For the record, Joshua actually did pay her back for that ring. So,
Oh, wow.
Good.
That's
Yeah, there's that.
incredible. I would have thought that he would have stiffed her for that. That's wow.
no, but over the course of their dating, she did move in with him, or at least was spending the night there overnight and was keeping that from her parents. But they did eventually figure it out. And while they didn't really agree with it, they kind of, there's how much can you really do about it,
Right.
So they were married in the Portland, Oregon temple in August of 2001. So they did get married in the temple. So at this point, Joshua was still enough of an LDS member that they were able to get married in the temple.
Oh, wow.
For those keeping track, that's only 6 months of dating. So they're married after only 6 months. Now, granted, my, whirlwind relationship with my wife at the time, we got married very quickly as well. But yeah, I mean, we're not in our early 20s. So
Yeah, there's a big distinction there. You're adults.
Joshua had a bachelor's degree in business, and he worked for a number of different companies over the years. However, it becomes very obvious that he's having trouble holding down a job, either through his recklessness or possibly a lack of dedication. There are some former employers that say that not only did he think he was smarter than his coworkers and bosses, but he expressed that.
Oh, come on, dude.
Yeah, he's a douchebag. Now, Susan was a trained cosmetologist. When their family relocated to Utah, she took on a job at Wells Fargo as in investments. So she's smart and working her ass off. Now, unbeknownst to Susan, her father-in-law, Steven, Joshua's father, became obsessed with her.
Oh, I hate that.
Very, very creepy shit.
Ooh, hate that.
He would follow both her and Joshua around with a camcorder all the time.
What the hell?
Oh, I really hate that.
There's a ton of footage you can find online everywhere where like they're at a wedding and he's supposed to be videotaping a lot more, but everything's just focused on Susan.
Ooh.
Oh, yikes. Hate that.
In some of this footage, it's clear how uncomfortable she is, but she's like, well, what can she do?
Right, especially like her husband's probably not going to do shit about it, so
right,
she's powerless.
Right, and at some point, they end up having to live with Steven as well.
No.
So not only can she not do anything about it, but now it's basically he's like her landlord. Like if she upsets him, they could get kicked out.
Yeah.
Later, the video would be reviewed, and Steven used a small mirror, and he would spy on her when she was in the bathroom.
Oh, I hate that.
He would steal her underwear out of the laundry.
Ew.
He read her journals, and he even wrote love songs about her and posted them online under a pseudonym.
Ew.
Yeah.
Did she ever find the songs, or like did she ever find out that he was doing any of this?
I don't think she knew about the songs, but in 2003, they were driving together somewhere. And this is actually all caught on tape. Steven put the camera down, but didn't realize that it was still recording. And it's during this car ride that he professes his love for her. Just, literally, just tells her he is absolutely madly in love with her. She, of course, rejects him and tells him that, she's married to his son.
Yeah, literally.
Like what the fuck? So Susan, of course, tells Joshua what happened, and Joshua confronts his father. But they were going to be, they end up moving out of state anyway. this was mostly because Susan really wanted to distance herself from Steven.
Very
So-
fair.
Doesn't cut off communication with his father. Like he talks to his father as if nothing happened.
Oh, that's weird.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it's weird that
Personally,
he doesn't feel creeped out by this at all.
yeah, like personally, I mean, granted, I don't speak to my father now, but if my father did that to my wife, it would come to blows and he would not be allowed anywhere near me, my family, anybody. So Susan's journal entries and email correspondence indicated that there was the presence of marital discord between her and Joshua. There was tension over Joshua because he refused to go to church services with her and her family. And of course, his continued contact with Steven, despite all of his father's ongoing advances towards Susan.
Ugh, ick.
Susan's friends also pointed out that Joshua's behavior was extremely controlling, especially towards her, and his extravagant spending habits. Now, the Powells would go on and have two sons, Charles, who was born in 2005, and Braden, who was born in 2007. In 2007, Joshua filed for bankruptcy, declaring over $200,000 in debt.
What the
Jesus.
holy hell did he buy?
That's part of what she was documenting.
Oh, okay. So that was part of okay. I didn't know if that was
Yeah.
something separate or
No.
wow.
So after this, as we've already said, he began using Susan's information to open more credit cards and continue his spending habits. And it's at this point that Susan was advised to record that video of herself documenting their possessions and, of course, his behavior of punching holes in walls.
Yeah.
On the morning of December 6, 2009, Susan, Charles, and Braden attended their church services. Later that night, a neighbor visited them in the afternoon, and they left around 5. Now, the neighbor said that Josh had made pancakes for everybody for dinner, and Susan, that night after eating, got really sleepy afterwards and went to bed.
Did he
So
put something in the food?
So the neighbor left,
Like it.
and this would be the last time Susan would be seen by someone outside that household.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Now, at first, relatives reported the entire Powell family as missing on December 7th.
Whoa.
Josh, yes. So, yeah, hold on. Joshua's mother, Teresa, which is spelled Terrisa, which that's why every time I say it, I pause.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Teresa,
awkward.
yeah. So Joshua's mother, Teresa, and his sister, Jennifer Graves, went looking for them at their house shortly after being informed that the children hadn't been dropped off at daycare that morning.
Oh.
They called the police after failing to make contact with Joshua or Susan. Now, the police arrive, and I have never heard of something like this happening before, but fearing that the family members were victims of carbon monoxide poisoning, they broke into the house. The police did.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that being probable cause. Does that even count?
Well, like it's
I
not
don't
probable
think
cause,
so.
but maybe if no one genuinely thought there was any chance of violent intent, that is a thing that could happen. I mean, especially if she had gone to bed. Well, they probably didn't know that she had gone to bed really sleepy, but that is plausibly carbon monoxide poisoning. It makes sense.
Yeah, but then police could always use that to enter a house without permission.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. So, of course, once I asked this question, I had to look it up. And every year, roughly 420 people die of carbon monoxide poisoning, with another 100,000 going to the hospital due to unintentional exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the wording of what can constitute probable cause is really vague, and obviously, because circumstances are going to vary. But CO2 poisoning seems sketchy to me. I'm just going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I will
anyway.
say though, really side tangent here. That's always been one of my biggest fears. I remember when I was younger, I heard a story of a family who everyone except the one little boy had died, and the little boy made it out. But there was a carbon monoxide leak, and he somehow made it out of the house, but his entire rest of the family never made it out. And so that's always kind of been like a back burner fear of mine, that like, because you don't know when it's coming, you can't sense anything, and It's a silent killer kind of thing.
Right. And that's a tragic story. But now, at least here in Massachusetts, having carbon monoxide sensors in your home is required.
Okay. I didn't know if it was required or not.
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah,
that
it
a lot of
is.
people do it.
Yeah. No, it's required now. I'm pretty
And
sure.
it's usually the same detector too.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I know that when I used to live at places that, for whatever reason, the smoke detectors would just go off randomly, and I would
All
just
the
take the
time.
batteries out of them because I was so friggin' annoyed with them. But the carbon monoxide detectors, like you said, that's something else. Like you can't smell that. So I always kept those in. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when police enter the home, they find no one inside, but they notice two box fans blowing at a wet spot on the couch.
Hmm.
Susan did not show up for her job on December 7th. Her purse, wallet, and IDs were all found at the house. Her cell
Hmm.
phone would later be found in the family's only vehicle, a Chrysler Town and Country minivan that Joshua had actually been using.
Hmm.
Later that day, at about 5 p.m., Joshua returns home with the two boys and was taken to the police station for questioning. He claimed that he left Susan sleeping at home shortly after midnight on December 7th and had taken his boys on a camping trip to Simpson Springs in western Utah.
That's a weird alibi. Just like spur of the moment, like, here we go.
It's going to get even more ridiculous, sir.
Oh, God. How many times does he change his story?
Joshua claimed that around 1 a.m., the boys wanted s'mores. And rather than tell them, I don't know, it was the middle of the night and they needed to go back to fucking sleep, what do you think Joshua does?
Let's go camping.
Exactly. He decides to take them camping to make s'mores.
Yeah, weird, bad excuse.
And I haven't mentioned this yet, but outside that night, it was blizzard conditions.
Oh, great time. I was
What?
thinking about it's December. Yeah. What are you
Yeah.
doing, buddy?
It's fucking snowing like a blizzard outside. And he's claiming he's taking his two sons camping so they can have s'mores at 1 a.m.
Man, this guy doesn't know how to make a good fucking alibi, huh?
I can't even fathom the thought process. Like, let's say that is true. Like, who the fuck in their right mind risks their lives and the lives of their children to make them quote unquote authentic s'mores?
At that point, if his alibi was true, that's child endangerment at that point.
Exactly. So the
Yeah, what the
police
hell?
So the police would visit Simpson Springs on December 10th, but found no evidence of a campsite that Joshua had described.
Because it doesn't exist.
So the boys were scheduled to go to daycare that next day. And this is another kind of strange aspect of Joshua's decision making. He had additionally not even told his boss that he wasn't coming into work that day. And when he explained it to police, he claimed that, he thought it was a Sunday, not a Monday. So the camping trip wasn't on a Saturday night to a Sunday, as he claims to have believed. He left on a Sunday into a Monday. So therefore, it didn't occur to him that the kids had to go to daycare and that he had to go to work because he thought it was Sunday the whole day.
Oh my God, his story must have unraveled so quick.
So upon searching their residence on December 9th, investigators did find traces of Susan's blood on the floor, as well as a life insurance policy on her for $1.5 million.
Whoa.
As well as the handwritten letter that Susan had written that was basically her will expressing fear for her life.
Oh, no.
The DNA test results for the blood, which weren't released until 2013.
Whoa.
Showed
Why?
that they... I don't
Why
know.
did it take that long? What the hell?
So the blood matched Susan's, but there was another sample, and it was just called unknown male contributor. So in amongst that blood was someone else's DNA that wasn't Joshua's.
Oh no. I hope it wasn't Steven's.
So in August of 2012, again, we're jumping ahead here. West Valley City Police released documents showing Joshua took actions that were regarded as highly suspicious following Susan's disappearance. Okay, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So basically around this time, Joshua had liquidated Susan's retirement accounts. He canceled her regularly scheduled chiropractic sessions as well as other appointments, and he withdrew his children from daycare.
Yikes.
He's basically behaving like he knows she's not coming back.
Right.
Now,
Oh.
he had also previously spoken to coworkers about how to hide a body in an abandoned mine shaft in western Utah.
Wow, that's not suspicious at all.
No, nothing at all.
This guy's stupidity is blowing my mind right now.
So police interviewed the couple's oldest son, Charlie, the older of the two. He's 4 years old. I watched this video. This video is available on YouTube. It goes on for about 20 minutes or so, maybe 12 minutes or so. It's hard to watch because he's 4 and he gets distracted really easy.
Oh.
But, you know, this woman is asking him questions. And one of the big things that comes out of this is he says that they did, in fact, go camping. He kept calling it like Dinosaur National Park or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that all 4 of them went to the campsite together. But that mommy had decided to stay there because she wanted to sleep where the crystals grow.
Whoa.
Talk about foreshadowing.
What makes this hard is, one, he's 4 years old, so nothing that he's saying is admissible in court.
Right, because kids will say a bunch of shit.
Right, and he does. He claims, because when she asked him how they got there, he said they took an airplane.
Right.
And he does get confused at times. He starts talking about a woman from his daycare as if she was there, but obviously she wasn't. But he does say that they went out together, but that mommy didn't come back with them.
Oh.
So that's rough. Now, a few weeks after the disappearance, a teacher reported that he referred to his mother as being dead.
Ooh.
Now, the other brother would draw like a little crayon thing. And it was of the car, all of them in the car going camping. And when the teacher asked, who each person in the picture was, he pointed out his dad, his brother, and himself. And when she asked where his mother was, he said she was in the trunk.
Wow. Yeah, no.
Horrific. Oh, that's awful.
That's some PTSD stuff right there.
So investigators informed the media that they plan to question Joshua again, and they subpoenaed all the footage and interviews, both aired and unaired, that Joshua had done for local television stations. Because, of course, he's out there appealing to the public to get his wife to come back.
Right. Of course he has to.
Right. So at this point now, the police are like, we need to hear everything he said. We need to catch him in any kind of misstep.
Right, exactly. Compare all his stories and make sure we're not missing anything.
Correct. On December 14th, Joshua retained a lawyer in connection with the investigation, and police said that he was growing increasingly uncooperative.
Which means he's got something to hide.
Well, to be fair, I don't care what it is. If the police want to sit me down and talk about anything that I think is more severe than, like, I don't know, a speeding ticket, I'm getting a lawyer. I've heard
As
this.
you should, right?
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
I'll agree with
too
that.
many
But
times,
the whole uncooperative thing, like,
yeah, that's huge. A few days later, after getting his lawyer, Joshua took his sons and they went up to Puyallup, Washington to stay with his dad. By December 24th, Joshua was considered a person of interest in the investigation. That's, to me, obvious.
Yep.
And on January 6th, 2010, he and his brother Michael returned to their house and basically packed it all up, indicating that that's it. They were permanently moving to Puyallup.
Huh.
It was reported that he had lost his job, and that was one of the big reasons he was moving out of there.
Well, that's reasonable, I guess.
What's interesting is there's an interview with Joshua's sister, Jennifer, and she was aware of her own their father, Steven's history with children. So she was actually concerned about the two boys living there.
What is his history with children?
Well, you're going to find out a little bit, but he, like with Susan, he likes to record people without their knowledge.
Oh, no.
I fucking hate this guy.
Oh, my God. And it's kids. That's even more disgusting.
So while in Puyallup, Joshua occupied a home with his two sons, his father, Steven, and both his brothers, Michael and Jonathan, as well as his sister, Alina. Now, Jennifer's not there because they're basically kind of pushing her away because she's a little too aggressive for their taste.
Interesting.
So Joshua indicated that he would not be returning to Utah. And soon after, a website was created called susanpowell.org. It described itself as the official website of Susan Powell. And the site's anonymous entries defended Joshua as the victim of a smear campaign by Susan's family, his estranged sister Jennifer, and the LDS Church.
He's really painting a whole picture here, isn't he?
Additional posts also speculated that Susan's disappearance was connected to another person who had disappeared, a man by the name of Steven Coacher. He was a former journalist who vanished the same week as Susan. And it kind of put forth that the two of them had run off to Brazil together.
Well, that's a random assertion. All right.
But I can honestly see, unless I'm assuming they didn't kill this guy, I can totally see, like, you have this other guy who disappears and they're like, oh, here we go. We can say they ran off together.
The perfect scapegoat. Yeah.
Right. And obviously it was widely believed that Joshua and Steven were the ones writing these posts. In late 2010, both men claimed that Susan had abandoned her family due to mental illness and that she had left with another man. They're continuing to push that forward. Susan's family, of course, rejected these claims as being unsupported by any evidence whatsoever. Joshua's sister, Jennifer, was so convinced that her brother killed Susan that she wears a wire, and working with police, she stops in, like unannounced, to visit her brother and her father and tries to get a confession out of them.
Wow.
That's ballsy. Wow.
She said in interviews that she was terrified, but she had to do it. And
like believing that they're capable of murder and then still walking in there with a wire.
Well,
That's
it's
brave.
funny. It's during the interview, she says to police, she tells the story of how she said to police, what's my code word if I feel afraid? Should I say, is there a special word I should say? And the police are like, let's just keep it simple. Just yell for help.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So during this time, she's having dinner with them and she's trying to get them to talk about it. And she's getting so frustrated because they're avoiding the topic that she eventually basically corners Joshua into the bathroom and demands, she's like, where did you hide the body?
Whoa.
But he says nothing. She gets absolutely nothing out of it.
Wow. She tried. I mean,
she did try.
Man.
You got to give her credit. That was ballsy.
Yeah, but how bad is that going to come back
Extremely
and bite her?
Well, you'll see, because, obviously we have more story to tell. Because of this, now investigators are starting to kind of look into Steven with a bit more scrutiny. They learn, this is where they start learning that he was obsessed with his son's wife. They go in and they seize his computers and they get the warrant and they're taking all this stuff, and they find images in his house. There were 4,500 images of Susan taken without her knowledge.
Oh my God, no.
Including close-ups of specific body parts.
Oh God.
Yeah, and like I said, I watched some of these videos. There's a video where she's walking away from him and he's, obviously videotaping her, and she's like holding a folder and she purposely puts it over her ass as she walks away. And he even tells her, oh man, come on, what the hell?
Disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely awful. So police also turned their attention to Michael, the brother, after learning that he had sold a broken down Ford Taurus to a wrecking yard in Pendleton, Oregon, shortly after Susan's disappearance.
That's very sketchy.
Right. So police did find the car and they go in with cadaver dogs. And the cadaver dog does indicate that somewhere in that vehicle had been decomposing human remains.
Ooh,
however,
gross.
The DNA test on the car proved inconclusive, though. So they weren't able to actually. But it is widely believed that, I don't know why they wouldn't have tested Michael at this point, but that unknown male DNA, a lot of people are speculating it might have been his brother Michael.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why.
They should.
Why they wouldn't have tested this by now? Weird.
On September 14th, 2011, Utah authorities discovered a possible gravesite while searching Topaz Mountain, a desert area near Nephi that Joshua had frequented as a campsite. There were signs of recent soil disturbance and shoveling, but after digging down a few feet, police were unable to find any remains in spite of all the careful sifting of the soil that they had done. Authorities said they were following a scent detected by their cadaver dogs. Now, relations between and within the Powell and Cox family became increasingly hostile.
Makes sense.
After the police raid of their home in 2011, both Joshua and Stevens spoke to major news outlets regarding Susan's journals, and supposedly she had written about her quote-unquote relationship with Steven.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And they're just claiming this. They don't actually have the journals.
Well, they do have the journals. And
Right.
even though they were written by her when she was a teenager, they're claiming that in this journal, they're talking about Steven and her relationship with him.
Ew.
Oh my
Ew.
God. No.
Yep. Steven actually came out and claimed that he and Susan were falling in love prior to her disappearance.
How delusional.
Yeah. So some of these videos that the police took, which we're going to get into in a little bit as well, he like literally recorded video journals of himself talking about Susan, where he's like, well, I did this and she had to have seen that for what it was. How could she not? And then she responded this way. And
oh, he's definitely living in his own little twisted world there.
yeah, he's got it all going on up in his head.
Hate it.
Stephen cited the content of her journals, as evidence to support his theory that not only was she in love with him, but that she was mentally unstable and could have run away with another man. A judge at this point turns around and issues a permanent injunction forbidding Joshua and Steven from doing anything else with her journals. No more publishing, no more talking about it online. And he ordered the pair to return or destroy any journals that they had already published. Because again, they're running that stupid website.
Right.
On September 22nd, Steven was arrested because now they've fully sifted through his computer. He was arrested on charges of voyeurism and child pornography after they had found evidence that he had secretly videotaped numerous women and young girls, including Susan.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
John Long, Assistant Attorney General for Washington State, said that Joshua was a subject in the child pornography investigation. A friend of Steven claimed that he was preoccupied with pornography and he was hung up on Susan sexually. I mean, that's obvious, I think.
Obvious, but fucking disgusting.
At this point, Susan's father, Chuck Cox, filed for custody of Susan's children the day after Steven was arrested.
As he should.
Well,
Get
that's
them
a
out of
smart
that
move.
home, please.
Yeah, finally, right?
Yeah, it's about damn time.
A Washington court eventually granted Cox temporary custody of the boys, ruling that Joshua would have to move out of Steven's home if he wanted to ever regain custody.
Yep.
Joshua rented a house in a place called South Hill, but authorities later alleged that he had never actually moved into that house, merely making it appear as if he had, so that he could satisfy the court's instructions, and he was continuing to reside in Steven's home.
Ugh.
Yeah. In late September 2011, Joshua's sister Jennifer publicly stated that she believed Joshua was responsible for Susan's death or Susan's disappearance. So now she's publicly like, that's it, I think,
Yeah.
His other sister, Alina, had also been suspicious of him, but she later withdrew her suspicions and felt that Joshua had been unduly harassed by investigators.
Ugh, come on, girl.
So at this point, West Valley City in Utah had spent more than $500,000 on this case.
Wow.
On September 28th, Mayor Mike Winder indicated that he felt that the case was worth the expense, stating that he felt that they are getting to a tipping point where all they needed was a little more evidence, and that this case would keep moving forward and they could wrap it up. In late 2011, Joshua had to undergo a series of court order evaluations in Washington. Evaluations by James Manley determined that Joshua had adequate parenting skills, steady employment history, and no criminal record or history of domestic violence.
Are you fucking serious?
Who the hell's doing these evaluations? What?
Yeah. However, Manley also did raise some concerns about the ongoing criminal investigation, obviously.
Yup.
Joshua's failure to admit normal personal shortcomings, his overbearing behavior regarding his sons, and his persistent defensiveness and paranoia attributed to the police and media in conjunction with other underlying narcissistic traits.
Yikes.
So no offense, but I don't understand how you can say everything in that second part and still turn around and say that he has adequate parenting skills.
Yeah, completely contradictory.
Yeah, like, well, he can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and like, what? I don't understand. The recommendation was for Joshua to have visitation with his sons several times a week, supervised by a social worker.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
reasonable, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, you
For
are.
what evidence they have.
Yeah, I mean, you're still a suspect in your wife's disappearance, but they are your kids. That I can see this is a weird tightrope, right?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
In the last week of January of 2012, Utah police discovered about 400 images of simulated child pornography, bestiality, and incest on a computer seized from the Powell family home.
Disgusting.
Oh, God.
Simulated as in animated or cartoon drawings.
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better.
Absolutely.
It makes it a little better.
Well, sure.
I guess that means that they didn't create it.
Thank you. Like seeing a cartoon of a horse fucking a person up the ass or something is, far better than actually seeing a horse fucking someone up the ass.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
You know what
I would
Fair
guess. Not
Yeah.
that I've seen either. I would say that's probably a little bit better, I guess.
I'm just going to say I was in Tijuana in the late 90s, and I will leave it at that.
I'm so glad to not know what the fuck you mean by that.
And I'm not going to go any further.
Thank you.
So the images, while not technically illegal due to them being hand-drawn or cartoon 3D format, whatever, were cause for great concern, particularly given Joshua's earlier denial of ever possessing any such material. So,
Yeah. Are you telling me that simulated child pornography is legal?
not technically illegal. It's like it's an in between. At least it was in 2011 or 2012.
That's gross. I hate it, but okay.
Agreed. But I mean, again, look at manga comics. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with manga comics, but those characters all look like 12-year-olds.
No, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Ick.
Yeah. So Joshua was recommended to receive a more thorough psychosexual evaluation and polygraph test. But Manley suggested no change to the visitation schedule with his sons. Meanwhile, Michael, his brother, established a Google Sites page claiming that Susan's parents were abusing and neglecting the boys in collusion with the child welfare authorities.
What the fuck?
And that the West Valley City Police had both mishandled the investigation into her disappearance and were harassing Joshua.
Oh, come on.
There has to be laws about things that you can say on the internet. And I know we don't really have these in place yet, but there needs to be.
Yeah, there's
I know there's libel and slander, but where's the line?
Right. You can really go on the internet and say anything.
So the lawyers for the Cox family disputed the allegations, obviously, and Google removed the site after just a few days because of violations of their terms of use. At least there's that.
Thank God for that.
On February 5th, 2012, a social worker named Elizabeth Griffin Hall brought Charlie and Braden to Joshua's home for his scheduled supervised visits. The boys, being boys, ran ahead of her and reached the front door before the social worker got there. Joshua ushered the boys inside, looked at Elizabeth, and closed the door in her face. Surprised, Elizabeth started knocking on the door, but received no response. But she also smelled gas.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
She quickly called 911. This is the 911 call, and let me tell you, it is going to make your blood boil.
Oh, no.
Hey, I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house, and the parent, the biological parent, whose name is Josh Powell, will not let me in the door. What should I do?
What's the address?
It's 8119, and I think it's 89th. I don't know what the address is.
Okay, that's pretty important for me to know.
I'm sorry, I can't. Just a minute. Let me get in my car and see if I can find it. Nothing like this has ever happened before at these visitations, so I'm really shocked. And I could hear one of the kids crying, but he still wouldn't let me in. Okay, it is just a minute. I have it here. You can't find me by GPS?
No.
This has been
Okay,
over a
it
minute.
is, I still can't find it.
Oh no.
A lot of
But I
wasted
think I
time.
need help right away. He's on a very short lease with DSHS, and CPS has been involved. And this is the craziest thing. He looked right at me and closed the door. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting to know where you are.
Okay. It's 8119 189th Street, Court East, Puyallup, 98375. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because I smell gasoline and he won't let me in.
You want to pull out of the driveway because you smell gasoline, but he won't let you...
He won't let me in.
He won't let you out of the driveway?
He won't let me in the house.
Whose house
Got
is
the
it?
kids in the house and he won't let me in. It's a supervised visit.
I understand. Whose house is it?
Josh Powell.
Okay, so you don't live there, right?
No, I don't. No, I'm contracted to the state to provide supervised visitation.
I see. Okay. And who is there to exercise their visitation?
I am. And the visit is with Josh Powell.
And who
And he is
supervises?
the husband that I supervise.
So you supervise and you're doing the visit?
Yeah,
You're
I
supervising
supervise
yourself?
I supervise myself. I'm the supervisor here.
Wait a minute. If it's a supervised visit, you can't supervise yourself. If you're the
I
visitor...
do supervise myself. I'm the supervisor for the supervised
God.
visit.
This is infuriating.
Okay, well, aren't you the one making the visit?
It's
or is
been
there another
almost
person
3
that
minutes.
you're supervising?
No, I'm the one that supervises. I pick up the kids at their grandparents.
Yes. And then who visits with the children?
Josh Powell.
Okay, so you're supposed to be there to supervise Josh Powell's visit with the children.
Yes, that's correct.
And how did
And he's the husband of missing Susan Powell. This is a high-profile case.
how did he gain access to the children before you got
He
there?
I was one step in back of them.
Okay, so they
He
went
shut
into the
the
house
door
and
in
then he
my
locked you out.
Yes,
Okay.
he shut the door right in my face.
All right, now it's clear. Your last name?
My name is Elizabeth Griffin Hall.
Oh
Griffin
no, I
Hall
hear
is
that in the
hyphenated.
back.
Yes.
He wastes time asking her if her name's
And what's
hyphenated.
your phone number,
Insane.
Elizabeth?
This cell phone number is 360-990-9955.
It's been 4 minutes.
And what agency are you
Oh
with?
no.
They could all be dead.
Network.
I hope this guy got reprimanded and lost
And the
his
kids
job.
have been in there by now approximately 10 minutes. And he knows
How
this
many
is
children?
a supervised visit. 2. Braden is 5 and Charlie is 7.
It's crazy how much time
Your
this
dad's
guy's
last
wasting.
Powell, Powell. L.
2 L's? 2 L's at the end of Powell?
Yes.
His first name?
His first name is Josh.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, native?
How many times has he asked about his name? That's absurd.
I don't know. He's about 39.
How tall?
None of this is important.
5'10",
No,
100 and
literally they need to send
pounds.
help.
Oh, just
Hair
wait.
color?
Brown.
Why doesn't she get angry and like?
No, I didn't notice what he was wearing.
Is he alone then, or is anybody
I
else?
don't know. I couldn't get in the house.
Listen to all that silence.
It's crazy. I just wait. He's going to say something that'll just make your head just explode.
Are you in a vehicle now or on foot?
I'm in a vehicle. I'm in a Prius. On,
Oh my God, what does it matter?
2010 Prius.
What color
With
is
the
it?
doors locked. But he hasn't opened the door. I rang the doorbell and everything.
What color
I
is
begged him to let me in.
Elizabeth, please listen to my questions. What color is the Toyota Prius?
Gray, dark gray.
And the license number?
I don't know. I can look.
Oh
We're
my
at 6
God.
minutes.
This is insane.
No.
They
No.
smelled gasoline in the house. Why is there not?
750ZMH.
Zebra Mary Henry?
Yes.
All right, we'll have somebody look for you there.
Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first. The first available
What?
deputy.
Well,
is responding.
this could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really, I'm afraid for their lives.
Okay, has he threatened the lives of the children previously?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll have the first available deputy contact you.
Come on.
Thank you.
Bye.
And then he disconnects with her.
Oh my God. That
Yeah.
is incompetence at its finest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad.
If
was-
anybody on an emergency line said to me, there's gasoline involved, I don't care any other information except where are you, and we'll get somebody out there as quick as possible.
For real.
Yeah. And it only gets worse.
Oh no.
How?
So literally, as soon after she hangs up that phone, the house fucking erupts in flames.
Oh God.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to share this part of the call with you, but that video continues on with her next call in, and literally,
Oh
the
my God,
idiots-
no.
The idiots on the other line are like, "Well, the fire trucks are on their way, but they don't know where they're going. Can you help us figure out where they're supposed to go?"
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God, no.
They keep asking her over and over and over again for that address, to the point where she didn't even know it at the beginning. She has it memorized by the time she says it the last time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So when the scene was examined, it was determined that both Charlie and Braden had suffered wounds to their heads and necks from a hatchet.
What?
Yes.
Oh, that's just cold. What the fuck?
Oh.
But their actual causes of death was carbon monoxide poisoning, ironically.
Are you for real?
Yeah, they were alive when the fucking house went up in flames with axe wounds.
What the fuck?
That's
Yeah.
horrific.
Absolutely crazy.
Oh my
And-
God.
And this goes back to our discussion, like, should he have had access to those kids? Yeah.
No way.
Absolutely not.
At this
No.
point, yeah, if you're suspected of your wife's disappearance, you should have nothing to do with your children.
Also,
No.
I think like there's something to be said for those supervised visits shouldn't have been at his house.
Right. And that was out of the norm as well, because typically supervised visits are held at a controlled location.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the fact, and
It just seems like they're putting even the social worker in undue danger.
yeah, if she had been able to force her way in, he would have killed her too.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. If she had been the first person at that door and the kids were behind her, what would have happened to her?
She would have gotten axe to the side of the head, probably.
Probably. So the
Horrific.
So the hatchet was recovered near Joshua's body, and investigators believed that he used it to attack the boys before becoming overwhelmed with the smoke and the fumes himself.
Ugh.
Local authorities treated the case as a double murder suicide, and after a relatively brief investigation, officials confirmed that the explosion had been deliberately planned. Yeah, duh.
No shit.
Yeah, obviously.
The fire investigation also found 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline on the premises, as well as evidence that gasoline had been spread throughout the house. When authorities notified Steven, who was in jail at the time, he didn't seem very upset by the news and was more angry towards the authorities who notified him.
Well, that's fucked up.
Yeah, your son's dead, as well as your 2 grandchildren at his hands. But, you know, why are you fucking bothering me with this shit? 2 weeks,
Horrific.
2 weeks later, Steven invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions regarding Susan's disappearance.
Guilty.
Cox and others have stated that they believe that Steven knew exactly what happened to Susan. So her father, basically, I mean, obviously, at this point, I think the father, the brother, and the husband all knew.
It's a family affair.
So Steven was convicted of the voyeurism charges in May of 2012 in a trial that was that largely skirted around the issue of Susan's disappearance.
What use is that?
Family and relatives of Joshua told authorities that he had contacted them by email minutes before the incident to say goodbye to them.
Oh, horrific. What a disgusting, disgusting man.
Records also showed that Joshua had withdrawn $7,000 from his bank account and had donated his children's toys and books to local charities the day before.
What the fuck?
Getting rid of everything.
And weird behavior.
Joshua named his brother Michael as the main beneficiary of his life insurance policy, and Charles and Braden were buried at the Woodbine Cemetery, which also contains a memorial for their mother, Susan. Joshua's remains were cremated.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody fucking wanted them.
At that, yeah, exactly. I wonder where they are to this day. So on February 11th, 2013, approximately 1 year after the death of Joshua and his sons, Michael Powell, the brother, killed himself in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he had moved for graduate school. He had jumped from the roof of a parking garage.
Oh.
Police had questioned him several times over the years after discovering his abandoned Ford in Oregon, and clearly he didn't want to answer those questions. Police described him as being evasive as to why he left the car at that location.
Mm-hmm.
Utah authorities have since said they believe that Joshua and Michael were accomplices in the murder of Susan, which we've already kind of talked about.
Yep.
In February of 2013, Manley, the guy who said that he was okay to have, visitations with his kids, he acknowledged his suspicions that Joshua was involved in his wife's disappearance.
Whoa.
Yeah, you still gave him access to his kids, you fucking
Yeah,
asshole.
you still did nothing.
However, he said he did not mention his suspicions in his report because he claims that they were beyond the scope of his duties at the time because Joshua had not been charged with any wrongdoing.
That's bullshit, but okay.
Yeah, it's his way of covering his ass and keeping from being sued, I guess.
Yeah, probably the only way.
On May 21st of 2013, West Valley City Police in Utah announced that they had closed the active investigation into her disappearance.
Damn.
Joshua's sister, Jennifer, went on to write a book with co-author Emily Clausen about her entire family's tumultuous history.
Good for her.
The memoir was published in June of 2013, and it's called A Light in Dark Places. She was inspired to write the book because she says to help others recognize abuse in their own relationships and the relationships around them, because it's not always completely apparent, according to her, which is true.
It's true. Oh, that's so sad.
In March of 2015, Chuck Cox, the father of Susan, won a protracted court battle with Teresa and Alina Powell over control of Susan's estate. So, so basically she dies, Joshua got control of it, and then with the life insurance and all that, and then when he died, it went on to his mother and sister, so her father was able to take that, which is good.
That's good.
Teresa and Alina had sought to have Susan declared legally dead to be able to collect that life insurance policy, but Cox ultimately gained full control of the entire estate.
Nice. I guess.
The Cox family also sued Washington's Department of Social and Health Services and its social workers, claiming that the agency prioritized Joshua's parental rights over the safety of the boys, and that facilitated their deaths. In 2015, a federal court granted summary judgment to the defendants, ruling that the social workers had immunity and that DSHS was not negligent.
I call bullshit.
I don't blame the social worker. In fact, I think she did everything she could.
Right. Like that wasn't her fault. She was
not at all. Yeah,
she probably was uncomfortable going there too.
Yeah, and those kids took off running. What is she going to do?
Right.
It's like blaming.
She can't physically stop them.
Yeah, you can't, like, a kid goes taking off, or unless you already had a good grasp on that kid, good luck to you.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
And like clearly if the kids were running towards there, they felt safe enough. So it's hard.
Yeah, they were just excited to see their dad. They had no idea. In 2019, an appeals court partially overturned that decision, ruling that the social workers did have immunity, but the question of the Department of Health and Services negligence could proceed to a trial.
That makes sense.
Yep.
But those visitations shouldn't have been set up like that at all.
Exactly. At trial, a jury ruled that the Department of Social and Health Services was negligent and awarded $98 million to
What?
the estates.
Shit.
Yeah. $98 million.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Because if you think about it, Susan's life plus the life of her two children, all three of them, if they lived to be 80, would they have made $98 million in their lifetime?
No, absolutely
Probably
not.
not.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. But
is.
you know what? That family went through hell.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they find peace.
Susan's family also pressured state lawmakers in Washington and Utah to pass bills that would restrict or block visitation rights for parents being investigated for murder.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's a reasonable request. Steven Powell was released from prison on July 11th, 2017, after serving a total of 7 years following his voyeurism and child pornography convictions.
It's not enough, but okay.
No, he died of natural causes in Tacoma, Washington in July of 2018.
Yeah, natural causes. That's what I call my knife.
That's actually really funny.
Thanks.
In 2019, a podcast called Cold disclosed that the incestuous cartoon porn found by Utah police was actually not Joshua's, nor had it even come from his computer.
What?
Interesting twist.
The pornographic pictures that were found on the computer actually belonged to a computer that Susan had bought from other members of the LDS church. She had bought it used.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yeah, and even though like they had deleted it before selling it to her, police know how to pull that stuff back.
Right. It's still, unless you burn over something in a hard drive, it's still there, even if your computer deletes it.
Correct. So that was just a weird coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, how fucked up is that?
That is so deeply fucked.
Now, the podcast Cold declined to identify the original owners of the computer because, as the host stated, they had a conflict of interest as they were acquaintances of the previous owners of that computer because they are both members of the LDS church. So the podcast people for Cold are also LDS church members.
Interesting. Well,
I know that's just weird. But at the same time, again, I understand that it's gross, but it is just cartoons and drawings. So, you know.
yeah.
So, but no criminal charges were ever filed against anyone relating to those images. Susan remains a missing person, but given the fates of her sons, it's why they believe that she was murdered by her husband and probably his brother. There were calls as of March 2018 to have her declared dead, with the cause being homicide. In early 2022, a cave exploration crew led by Diesel Brothers personality Dave Sparks took up the challenge of searching a mine shaft in the Utah desert in search of Susan's remains. The team discovered several rib bones, possible human vertebrae, scraps of clothing, and other possible evidence of human remains in that mine shaft.
Whoa. I mean, that doesn't mean it's Susan. That's a place where you can deposit remains.
Well, the remains were sent to a lab with DNA tests concluding that none of the bones belonged to Susan Powell, but they were instead animal remains.
Oh.
Wow.
And the clothing they found there, and there were some bones that tested positive for being human, were actually male DNA. And they're like, the group is trying to identify whoever that person was, but they still don't know.
Yeah. Would be interesting if that ended up solving some other missing persons case.
That'd be really cool. That'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
But that is the crazy case of Susan Cox Powell and her 2 sons, which I left out at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, sad.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's wild. That's a real failure of Child Protective Services.
Yeah, I can't. When I was like, the first time I heard this story, because I first heard this story years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as like they're talking about him still having access to the boys, I'm like, God, they're so fucking stupid. And then the moment you get to the point where he closes the door in her face, you're like, oh fuck.
Yep, that's when I knew it was taking a really dark turn.
Mm-hmm.
And how frustrating is that call? That
Oh
guy,
my God, that was infuriating as hell.
oh, we have to
I
respond.
doubt they could have gotten there fast enough anyway.
Agreed, but
still infuriating. Oh yeah.
The whole like, we have to respond to life-threatening emergencies first. And she's like, I just fucking told you I smelled gas, you asshole. Like, Jesus.
Literally a crying child.
Yeah, that's so brutal. And there's footage of the house burning that you can find. Like,
Is there really? Holy crud.
It's like news reports and things like that. You know, so you can find a lot of this on YouTube, and it is, yeah, it's brutal. And it's just like, fuck, you know, like, I don't know. You're right. There's nothing they could have done. By the time she even called, the boys were probably had been assaulted with the axe, because she said it took her 5 minutes to even call, because we were at the 5-minute mark when she says the kids had been in there for 10 minutes,
which is an absurd amount of time.
Yeah, but and let's be honest, how long? Like I told you, like even the fire department didn't know where to go. So yeah, there probably wouldn't have been any saving them at that point.
No, I mean, it's lucky that the social worker made it out alive.
Yeah, that's true. Although would have been so badass if she was like Superwoman and like kicked in the door and kicked this guy's ass.
Wouldn't it have been great? Left him burning, saved the kids.
Right.
Well, I really thought she was gonna try to go back up and like knock on the door or like try to do something.
No, I mean,
once that door slammed in her face, I was like, she just gonna take that? Like, what's going on?
She said that
she knows.
Yeah, she was pounding on the door, yelling. She could hear the kids crying. She could smell gas. So she got away from the house, called the police. She did the right thing.
I don't know. I just, like you said, I thought there would have been more, Superwoman kind of like, holy crap, there are kids involved.
Yeah, but it's interesting because she's older. Like, I think she was I've seen images of her in an interview. I don't know how old she was in the interview versus when this happened, but she was older. She's not, what is she going to do? Kick in a door and take on a younger man? I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, she wasn't going to be able to help.
Yeah, no, she's lucky to be alive. You're right. Because had she been at that door first and stepped through there before the kids, she'd have been toast. Because she would have smelt the gas that he spread everywhere immediately and tried to leave.
But do you think they would have still been alive if she had gotten in there first?
I don't know. I mean, if she had turned to the kids and say, quick kids, run outside. If he called the kids back, what do you think they would have done?
Probably run towards them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, who knows? And who knows what they saw the night of their mother. Like in that interview, Charles does say that, because when he talks about how his mother wanted to sleep where the crystals grow.
Yeah.
He claimed that she told him that.
Oh shit.
Now, yeah, I know. That's a little weird, because at this point one would assume that she was dead on the way there. So in my head, I wonder, did the father, did Joshua, was he holding the mother? Like, or laying there with her saying something like, well, your mother's asleep, but she says this.
Right. Like there's a lot that a child would believe and then recount.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, and in the interview, because it's tough because he's only 4.
Right.
And the interviewer is asking, oh, you heard that from your mother? And he's like, yeah, my mother told me this, but you don't know what really happened.
Right. It's not exactly a reliable narrator.
Right. So if the father struck this woman in front of them, I don't even know that they would have run.
Or that they would have thought anything different, because that sounds like it probably already was happening. So
that's true.
They might not have thought anything of that, sadly.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, unfortunately, we'll never know the exact specifics of what really happened, but it's definitely a tragedy.
I mean, I hope someday they find her remains.
That'd be really cool. I thought of that. Like, if I always think, like, if I win the Mega Millions and I'm suddenly a billionaire, right? And, what would I do? And I would definitely put a lot more money into podcasting, to the point where, like you see in movies where podcasters drive around the country investigating crimes. Like, I would almost do something like that. And I would spend a good chunk of money going out to these mine shafts in Utah. That one person did it. They didn't find anything, but let's say you spend a lot more money on that. Maybe
right. I mean, $98 million settlement.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Why am I spending it? You're right.
Yeah, for real. Like, they should be paying someone to do that. I mean, I guess there's a certain point at which, they know she's dead, and
they do.
Searching for more, it probably is just more agony for the family.
Yeah. It's been 15 years at this point. It's 15 years ish.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more I would put into it, but
no, probably not worth it.
But personally, if I had that kind of money, I would be out there doing it, because why not? I just think it'd be great to be the person who found her remains. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I mean, I feel like I have the same final thoughts every week. I hope the family finds peace. Fucking fuck abusers.
Yeah, it's awful. There's too many of them. Like, there's a case I'm researching that I'm going to be doing soon. Like, I'm so tired of every man in the case being a fucking pedophile.
It's a horrible running trend.
But I just don't understand, like, how are there so many of them?
Because they put on a facade and make it look good to the public so that they're not suspected.
No, but I hear what you're saying there. But, like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't consider myself a morally great person, but I would never. And to me, like, just every time I turn around, it seems like all these cases, these people are surrounded by pedophiles.
Yeah, and it's like no one does anything.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. Jameson, final thoughts?
It's really unfortunate that the system failed these two boys, and that it ended up the way it did, and just really tragic ending all around. And I really hope that the family finds peace, and that especially emergency response teams, as we heard, hopefully they can get training up to code and up to speed, so that they don't hire or allow people like that to take calls, because that, while it may not have completely saved them, definitely was a hindrance in this whole thing.
Yeah, still unacceptable.
Yeah, like, here you are, you're being told children are in a house that smells like gasoline, but I need to know what your car
is. Your name
like.
Hyphenated? It's life or death. We need to know
your car's license plate number.
Insane.
Idiots. All right, so
absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us again. We'll see you next week. I am Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.